The meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Dr. Fike?
Here.
Mr. Frund is absent. Mrs. Geyer?
Here.
Mr. Lizza?
Here.
Mrs. O'Rear is absent. Mr. Shipley?
Here.
Mr. Polakowski?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
And Mrs. Williams.
Here. I'd like to announce that prior to this meeting, we were in executive session for some personnel matters and legal matters. Mrs. O'Rear and Mr. Frund did ask to be excused, and Mrs. Smith is joining us via Zoom. Also, this meeting is going to run a little differently than our last couple meetings. Now that we're down to one meeting a month, we've been running it as a separate discussion meeting and then going right into the voting meeting. We'll be doing everything all at one time. So when we get to the personnel section, we'll be discussing personnel, and then we will be voting on that personnel. Sort of just like we ran meetings for 2 years prior to this last year, where we were pretty much running every single meeting as a discussion and a voting meeting, because there's so many things to discuss and vote on. Just so that there's no confusion moving forward. If there's any items that, when we get to the personnel section and we go to vote, if somebody would like an item removed after discussion, that can be done to not vote on them as a block. Is there any questions? Announce what? So first of all, I was asking if the board had any questions, but the announcement would have been that this was advertised. They've been running on the same day for months, probably almost a year now. Does the board have any questions so that there's no confusion during the meeting?
So each item will be dealt with individually.
Each item will be discussed individually, and then the block will be voted on unless you want something pulled out, just like we have been voting on blocks, but we will discuss each item, yes. So for example, when we get to personnel, there are 5 items there, and I will be making a motion to approve items 1 through 5 after discussion of each item. If you want something pulled from that, it can be pulled. So if you're pulling item number 2, we will do a block vote on items 1, 3, 4, and 5, and come back to item 2.
What happens to the item that is pulled for discussion?
We're going to discuss everything. There's nothing being pulled to discuss. We're going to discuss every item if that's what you
If
want.
you want to vote no on one item, how do you do that?
You pull it out, and we'll vote on it separately.
Okay, that was
Okay.
the question. You're going to
Yep.
vote on each pulled item separately.
Yeah, yep. Okay.
All right. Our next,
Citizens, was there any citizens' comments that we have that are related to agenda items? Okay.
no.
Our first section is minutes.
Discussion and voting meeting minutes. This is from August 10th. I'm sorry, that's a lie. Today is August 10th. So this is from July 13th for the discussion meeting and July 13th for the voting meeting. Is there any discussion on either one of these items?
Yes, I have a concern.
Okay? Which,
When a person leaves this board, the only thing they leave behind them are their vote to be judged for the future.
yes,
When I vote no on a personnel item, I give a reason. And I want that reason to be in the minutes. For example, I voted no on hiring a school psychologist. It had nothing to do with that individual. And I want to make that very clear. I voted no because that makes 2 psychologists for the Southmoreland School District. That is why I vote no. I want to be very careful that I don't want people to say that I'm voting against a person. When a person is on any board and they vote no, they should have some reason for that, or vote yes, they should have some reason for it. And I would just appreciate it if when a dissenting vote is placed and a reason is given that it be included. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on these minutes? I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 13th discussion and July 13th voting meetings. I need a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Next section is reports.
So superintendent?
Sure, yeah, I have a couple things for tonight. The first of which are basically procedural. We did get a new gas monitoring report for quarter 2 that was sent to us in July, end of July. Combustible gas monitoring events for the landfill property. So we include those every time we have those. The next thing I wanted to discuss is being as ESSER money is still being spent this school year, school districts are required to review and update, if necessary, their health and safety plans while ESSER's monies are being spent. I wanted to share with the board that there have been no changes from the government regarding any of the protocols that were in place for the last time we reviewed it. So there are no updates that are needed as of right now. And the last thing I wanted to speak about was we had a number of retirements this past school year. And being as they were part of the personnel log, it's kind of tough during a personnel log to give people their due for their hard work that they've done for our students and our community. And I wanted to spend some time here this meeting to honor their commitment to the community and to the district. We have 5 employees of our district that have retired this year that are posted here. Mr. Vince Masha, Ms. Peggy Tarzan, Mr. Thomas Kimmel, Mrs. Cheryl George, and Ms. Marlene Fontanaza in our cafeteria. And as you see on this report here, varying ranges of years of service within the district, anywhere from 11 years all the way up through 35 years with the Southmoreland School District, which is absolutely outstanding. And you don't see that too much anymore. So on behalf of the administration and the community, I'd like to thank these 5 members for their service to the district and wanted to make sure we wish them well as they move on.
Thank you. Is that all you have?
I have discussion.
Sure.
Okay.
This falls under the category of superintendent information. I got these documents from the superintendent. It's superintendent information. And I did discuss it with him, and I think it's worthy of looking at in more detail. These 2 papers, I received them in July, this is August, and they deal with the achievement test scores. He broke them down into 3 areas, pre-COVID, and then 21, 22, and 22, 23, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Correct.
So when I was looking at this, I'm looking at the high school record here. And if you look real close up at the top, it says AP exam, initial analysis. So the first question that came to my mind is how many students took this test? And I discovered after talking to the superintendent, this does not reflect what happened in the high school. Only 15% of the students in our high school in grades 10, 11, and 12 took these tests. 15%. 85% did not, because these are advanced placement tests. So the first concern I had is under the column calculus, there's nothing. Does that mean that for 3 years, our students never took an advanced placement calculus test?
Where can I find what she's talking about?
So Dr. Fike is referencing the last weekly report that I sent out. I included initial assessment results for both PSSAs, Keystones, and AP exams. Your question was, does the 0 by calculus AB represent that nobody has taken the test, and that is incorrect. The 0 represents that nobody has passed the test in those testing years.
Okay, then this is a problem for me, because if you look at the next one, it's marked chemistry. And there's only one black bar with no comparison.
Yeah,
And when I asked about it, he said everybody who took it failed it
last year.
last year. So
And by last year, I mean 21, 22.
21, 22. So when you do a bar graph, and there's a negative, that bar shows from the line down, right?
A negative, yeah.
And there are none.
I mean,
There are none for calculus and none for chemistry.
the data is percent of students who were proficient on the exam.
But you're comparing them to other, all the other ones have 3 bars. One of them has none, and one of them has 1. And then all the rest of them have 3 bars. So when you have none or you have 1, there's something missing. And it was disconcerting to me when I found out that we have a very serious problem in calculus and chemistry, or we did last year, because nobody passed those tests for those 2 years. It doesn't show on this graph, but that's what's going on. Overall, if you look at, there were 11 areas that were measured. 6 of them improved. 5 of them stayed the same or got worse. And then 2 of them, there's nothing to compare them to. The decreases showed up in biology, music, physics, and U.S. history. Our best scores were English literature, European history, and world history. So if you look at the averages, the change averages, they're 38% were better, 34% were worse, and then there were 2 then that stayed at 0 that they don't show. But the other thing that concerns me is when you look at the second page of this, these are the scores that go all the way from 3rd grade math up to high school literature, and there are 18 areas. There were some good things that happened there. 11 of those areas were increases, and 7 of them were decreases. So that's like a 60-40 split, and that was very good. But my concern is, and I really appreciated Dr. Boone doing this, he shows a 3-year pattern here. He shows the pre-COVID, he shows the 21-22, and the 22-23. When you average them all out, and this is where I guess I'm somewhat distressed. When we got COVID money, we got $3,680,000 or something. Is that right, Pam? Something like that?
Something like
$3,630,000. And several people have said to me, where'd that money go? Where'd that money go? Where'd that money go? If you average all of these things out, we've spent 2 years of that money, and what we have now is a 5% increase in our student learning levels. I was of the impression that the COVID money was going to focus on education, and I don't think it did. I don't think we spent the bulk of that money on teachers or tutoring or academics and things like that, and we didn't because there's only a 5% increase. If you look at it over a 3-year period, if you take that 5%, it cost us $730,000 for every 1% that we increased our student scores based on this data. So I think this data is very important. I certainly spent a lot of time looking at it. It was very comprehensive. There were 2 areas that were eliminated, and I was unhappy about that, but that's not designed to be a criticism. It's just to recognize that we have some serious problems. We have very serious problems in calculus, chemistry, physics, United States history. There are quite a few, and I think we need to look at our curriculum based on this information that we have.
And I think that's something that's being done currently. That's where I do believe we've had many discussions about curriculum, where curriculum needs to go, the fact that our curriculum wasn't focused where these tests are. There were many things that we have discussed. I just want to check to be sure this information was given to the board and it's not really completed by the state, correct? So
Correct.
like,
The PSSA and the Keystone data has not been verified at the PDE level yet.
so
These are initial raw numbers.
these will be being shared for the public.
Correct.
At a later time.
Yeah,
Michelle,
last year, I believe I shared them around December.
Okay, I
Whenever
just don't want to, they're not on this agenda, so we're talking about something that the public can't see.
This is superintendent information. I got it.
I didn't say that it's not, I'm just asking to verify that the public will receive a report on all of this information as well.
Absolutely.
But Michelle, it's up to us to look at this, and we have some really good scores on here. When you use the word curriculum, that's a great big umbrella term. If you look at the high school, and it was 15% of the kids, they did very well on English language and composition, English literature and comprehension, but they have done that in the past too. Whoever those teachers are, and I don't know who they are, they're doing a bang-up job. If you look at European history, it turned out to be, this is, I'm sorry, if you look at the other areas where we had the good scores, I'm very proud of those people that are working so hard. We had some really good scores. The 22-23 in European history is sky high, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Black bar. Look at modern world history is good. It surpassed the others. There are good things happening, but curriculum is a very broad thing. I think if you're going to work, you identify areas of need and you focus on those. Would you disagree that should be what we should do?
Yeah. Michelle,
Yes.
I can understand what Dr. Fakey's asking, but our superintendent wasn't here at the time. So for me to ask Dr. Boone any questions in regard to that, really doesn't make any sense because he wasn't here and he didn't know what happened. We got people sitting at their table, the brain trust. You have Dr. Clara, we have Mr. Krofchak. They were both here. Have any improvements been made in that field, in that area? Can you speak up, please? Come up there and talk. I just want to know, there's a concern over there. Has any improvements been made towards that concern?
I can't say with absolute certainty what was done differently in those courses. I wasn't in the high school watching that happen, but I know that things were taught, we learn as we go, right? We try to improve each time we do it. And I know those teachers are always looking for better ways to ensure the kids are getting it in the best ways that they can. I can't say any specifics of that. I don't think that'd be fair for me to do because I'm not watching day to day, but I know that we are always reevaluating how we taught it. We're looking at how we did last year versus how we're doing this year.
Have you taken some steps towards
Yes,
that?
and sometimes they work.
Okay. So
And sometimes they will not.
My biggest concern is that if we're failing in something, you guys taking steps to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I don't think that we're
I mean, it
ignoring
could
it.
happen again. I don't know. Okay, you guys, that's your job.
Yes.
Okay, but I want to know, I want to make sure that steps are being taken to make sure that their kids get the best education possible.
I think we're getting better at it even as we speak. But I think that each year we do look at those results and we try to find new ways to do it. Sometimes those attempts are going to yield great results. Sometimes you try something and it doesn't work
It
as well as
doesn't
you
work,
thought it
that's
would.
right. So you keep on trying until you find something that works.
And sometimes what worked for a long time
There
stops
you go.
working. So you got to keep working.
Dan, do you not agree that you identify areas that are serious problems
Absolutely.
and really work on those? And that's what I got out of looking at that
Yes.
graph. There's a couple things at the elementary school where there are weaknesses, okay, and some that are strengths. But, I'm concerned that it's not just a great big umbrella curriculum. We're not going to change everything because you have teachers doing good stuff. You don't need to change what they're doing. But I would ask that we have a concerted effort to identify the areas that are very needy and take action. One of them that I've been harping on forever was the math thing, and I was thrilled when Mr. Krofchak announced that they're doubling the math periods. I was thrilled because I'm big on time on task, okay, and that did it, that doubled it. So, I just would ask that we look at the individual areas and see what we can do. And those were our best students. You understand, that was only 15% of our student body, and they're our best kids. So I would hope that we could concentrate on those areas.
I think we're making a concerted effort to increase the kinds of things that we're going to use as tools to help kids to be successful. New material is one of those things. That comes with COVID money, by the way. So I think we continue to try to be better. But every time you try something, you're going to find some good results, and then sometimes you're going to find things that didn't work as well, and you have to go back to the drawing board. And I think we continually do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll add two things to that. First of which, Dr. Fike, you brought up the fact that you would think that given all the stuff that we've implemented and tried since we got ESSER money, that you would have expected to have seen more growth. And that's a phenomenon that's happening across the country, right? That's not unique to Southmoreland. There are studies, there's articles, there's reports right now that say, we're still far behind and we're not where we should be, and schools aren't. They use the term accelerated learning to kind of, you said big umbrella term. That was a huge umbrella term that was used a lot, was accelerate learning. And they're finding that there are still huge gaps that need to be closed, and they're not closing as fast as they originally thought. I'll give a shout out to our fifth grade specifically. Fifth grade math, not only did they close the gap that occurred during COVID, but they surpassed it. So our students are now performing better now than they did the 5 years prior to COVID, which is awesome. So hats off to them, and I wanted to make sure I said that in public. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up is you said about identifying problem areas, and you gave a couple content areas that you have concerns about, and I can tell you that the teachers have come to me about the resources they have to teach, and how outdated they are, and that's one of the things that we're attacking this year is really take a look at what we have. Does it cover what we need, what updates there are? And I'm not just talking textbooks, like Dr. Clare said. There's more things out there than just textbooks, so that's the work we're really going to attack this year. So thank you for pointing that out.
Dr. Boone, I see curriculum as part of a long-range concern, I know that our business manager has talked about long-range financial planning. I think we need to look at long-range educational planning. I did some research this week, and I was shocked to find out that in the year 2010, the state of Pennsylvania issued 15,000 teaching certificates. In 2020, they issued 4,200. We have 501 school districts in Pennsylvania, and if you divide that out, it comes out to about 8 teachers per district. And many of our districts hire hundreds and hundreds of teachers. So I think part of this long-range plan has to be to look at the curriculum, the staffing needs, and so forth, to see how we can best serve our students and remediate those areas and continue to support the teachers who are doing such a nice job, and there are a number of them.
Good job, Dr. Boone. By the way, I've seen a lot of changes since you've been here, and my thank you to the administration for doing what they're doing. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else?
I have nothing else, no.
Solicitor information.
I have no report tonight, Madam President.
Business manager, transportation director information.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Williams. The cyber charter, you will see that is actually states through June 30th. I will caution you, however, there still are a few invoices out there that we're waiting to put into the system and pay. As you know, we had talked about this last month. There was a concern about the state budget, which thankfully has been, that part of the worry of school district management has been taken away. They did pass that budget. So there will be a few more cyber charter invoices in here. But as you can see, as of right now, from what was budgeted, from what was the variance between 21 and 22, as of right now, we spent $144,000 less than we did in the previous year for cyber charter. So that's definitely going in the right way. You can see then also, I do have the activity funds. You will see that SPC is not listed in there this week or this month. Whenever I pulled all this data together, Mrs. Vance, who was responsible for doing the activity fund through June 30th, was actually on vacation. So I'll be having 2 of those for next month. And I am very happy to report in regard to transportation. Shara especially has been working very hard, and I've been helping her With the routing, we are on task to have the routing to the bus garage by August 15th per our contract. There's a few things that, and as we are getting the registrations and withdrawals throughout the week, we are entering those as soon as we get them from the offices. And as of right now, we have been able to reduce one bus, so we're happy about that. What Shara did, she looked at the Broadford area because we had several minibuses going down there, looked at the fact and talked in depth with the transportation owners to see if whether or not we could transition into a larger bus, especially for the middle schools. So we were able to do that, and that will offer us some savings as well. I've been working on, I had Bus Boss create a sandbox database for me, and I've been going in while she's doing the actual live work, and I've been going behind the scenes to optimize our routes to the best of our ability. So we're well on task to have that out to the public very soon. I believe that's about it for now.
Thank you. CWCTC report, Mrs. Smith.
I apologize. If possible, I'd like to give my report next month. I did not bring my notes with me from the meeting. I forgot them at home. So if it's okay, I'd like to give that report next month.
Yes, thank you. WIU report.
The Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Board does not meet in the month of July.
Thank you. PSBA liaison reports. That would be Mr. Frund, and he is not here. PSBA legislative reports.
We do not meet during the summer.
And committee reports. So buildings and grounds, Mr. Polakowski.
We're still trying to figure out a date to meet in the upcoming few weeks.
Okay,
That's all I have.
thank you. Finance, district operations and transportation, we have not met. Mrs. Mondock did just state that transportation is on course to have those routes out soon. Personnel policy and academics is Mrs. Smith.
I don't believe we've met since the last meeting for an official meeting, unless someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're correct.
Okay, so nothing to report.
Non-academic athletics and extracurricular, Mr. Shipley.
Nothing to report at this time. I think we have something scheduled August 21st, next meeting.
Thank you.
Michelle, I have a question about these reports. Dr. Boone, do you know if I don't go to a Westmoreland IU board meeting, say I can't make it, do we ask somebody else to go? How do we handle these things if a person can't, like if Christy couldn't go to the Vote Tech, or there are other meetings that people couldn't attend? How do we handle that?
I don't think you can.
So you can designate alternates if that's something that the board wants to do, so that in the event that someone can't attend, there's an alternate who can attend in their place.
The IU board holds elections. They're done by election. And I just wasn't sure how.
Like, I don't think that person could go and sit in maybe.
And maybe
but I
not
don't
do
think
anything.
They could participate.
Yeah.
Does he?
I
Yeah, I
haven't
don't
missed any,
believe-
but
I don't believe that someone could participate on my behalf
I think you're right.
at the Vote Tech at CWCTC. I believe that when I did miss a meeting, I just watched it and took notes. So, but I don't think someone could participate on my behalf.
The
Yeah,
alternate
they
does
clearly
not
couldn't
have
vote.
a voting right. The alternate does not have a voting right.
Right, yeah, you couldn't vote for the IU. I guess I'm thinking more about like the PSBA type things, because those are not as much, not an office that you hold or that you're elected to, as much as a responsibility for reporting out.
I think it's different if it's just a school board committee than it would be if it's an extra agency committee.
Let me just say, if Mrs. Smith can't cover a CWCTC meeting,
Or my ears.
I'll let you guys know what happened.
That'll be good.
Thanks, Mr. Lucas.
You're welcome.
Okay, there are no student reports this month.
Okay, our next section is policies.
So item number 1 is the school board meetings. And this is an update to reflect the change to Tuesday meetings. So we'll change our September through November meetings, and then our the reorganization meeting would be December 6th. I believe that's a
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Michelle, I have a concern. This board is going to change in December. And I'm already hearing people are saying, look, when I ran for the school board, it was the impression they were Thursday night meetings. So I don't know that you're going to have the same concern. I think you're not going to, there's going to be a little bit of a concern about changing this for people who were under the impression that it was going to be a different day.
Right, and I think somebody could bring that up and revote, and if it's goes unanimous the other way, then you'll be looking at it the other way. But right now, it was unanimous. I mean, it was, I think it was majority, definitely, but I'm
You
not.
could lose board members.
What was that? I'm sorry. I
You
didn't-
could lose a board member. You could
Well,
lose board members.
I mean, I'm just saying that this board voted to change the meetings. The incoming board could vote to do something different.
And I think that could happen at any time. I came into this knowing that if the board ever voted to change meetings to Wednesday night, I would not be able to attend. I would have to resign. And I think everybody knows that that can change at any point in time. Just takes a board vote.
Are you going to pull that for an individual vote then?
Well, what for an individual?
That number 1, that item number 1, school board
I
calendar?
can, yes, I can have that be an individual. I mean, that's, to me, is more or less, that's already kind of, I don't even know why that's an agenda item, but we can pull that for a vote. It will need to be advertised, and
Right. Have it on the agenda so that you
Yep.
can then direct administration to advertise if it passes, that you have new meeting dates.
okay. Item number 2, operations section. There are some policies. First read, post for 30 days. There's some changes to 800, records management, 830, security of computerized personnel information, breach notification, and 830.1, data governance, storage and security. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on any of these policies? Okay, program section. This is for first read also and for posting for 30 days. 137, home education programs. 137.1, extracurricular participation by home education students. 137.2, participation in co-curricular activities and academic courses by home education students. 137.3, participation in career and technical education programs by home education students. Also, just so anybody that is watching knows, they can click on these. You'll be able to read the policy in its entirety. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on those items? Okay, does anybody want any items pulled other than item 1, which Dr. Fike has already requested from this block? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 2 and 3 under policies. I need a second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 1, which is the school board meeting calendar. I need a second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in
Is it going to be
favor?
a roll call vote?
I mean, if,
How do I vote no?
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No, and I'd like to give the reason. My concern is that 12 people are going to adjust their schedules to accommodate one person who's being paid to be here. I think this was not done in the best interest of this board.
I'm going to discuss that just a bit further. When we hired this solicitor, we knew that this was a possibility. So it's not like they came here and then tried to do a switch on us. We knew this, we discussed this in a public meeting, in the public and in private. This was discussed. And as I said, if incoming candidates vote to change this, then of course it will change. But the current board has voted that this was what we wanted to do right now. And at any point, that can change.
Why was that change made?
Wasn't this all discussed at the last meeting?
Yes, in the meeting before that as well.
It's an agenda item, I'm questioning it.
We already voted on it
Yes.
Yep.
just now, so let's move on.
All right, next section is personnel.
So I have the personnel log for August 10th, 2023. Is there any discussion?
Well, there are changes in this personnel log.
There are changes. Yes,
There were three items deleted, yes.
yes. We have removed why am I seeing, because I'm seeing the.
We removed one resignation.
We removed a resignation. We removed 2 interventionist positions.
I have a question. When this stuff is put out, are the names of the people who are being hired public? Are they put out to the public?
No, not until we discuss them in executive session.
When are they put out to the public?
They're put out to the public after our executive session and before this meeting starts. If you're going to discuss this further, I'm going to need to call for an executive session. Because we are not discussing.
I'm not discussing individuals. My question is the procedure by which this is done. I think we can discuss a procedure here.
Okay.
At what point does anybody know who's being hired here in the public? At what point that's my question. At what point does the public know who we're hiring?
The name is public after our executive session, and we have discussed it. The position is on here as well. There's a blank for the salary, because in case we decide to go a different direction, you wouldn't know what step they were being hired at, if they were being hired at a master's or a bachelor's level. So their name is omitted, their salary is omitted, the position is on here. And that is available.
That's how we
for the
do it
public
at
to see.
CWCTC as well. That's exactly how we do it. Everything's blank until after executive session, and then we fill in the blanks during the actual meeting.
And that does comply with Sunshine because the positions are identified so that members of the public know what position is being hired, even if they don't know the person that's being hired into it until the meeting starts.
I don't think that's very transparent. At what point does the public know? Because if you look at our agenda, there's no names on it.
The public knows right now, because if they're looking at our agenda at home, or they're looking at the agenda right up here, the names are on here. They will not be in your agenda if you're looking at it back there, because that was prior to the meeting. It's personnel issues. It's not going to be posted, and we're not going to hold off on hiring these positions until next month. So every other district does this the same way. There's a blank for the name. There's a blank for the salary. The position is there for anybody to see what the position is. Prior to this meeting, this is unlocked. Prior to the public meeting is unlocked, and anybody that isn't at home looking at the agenda can see that. It is being shared up here for the public that is actually here, so they can see it as well. Is there any other discussion on the personnel log?
Does the public see which names have been removed? Or
No, because they're removed. They're not public. We're not hiring them. So no, their names are not on there.
Not the names, but the positions.
The positions, yes. And I just announced
Yeah.
that we will not be hiring tonight an SPC math interventionist. We will not be hiring an SPC reading interventionist. And we rescinded one of the resignations that was on here. So they do not see those either. Is there any other discussion on the personnel log? Okay, item number 2, 2324 school bus driver list. Any discussion? Item number 3, band chaperones. Is there any discussion?
I need to abstain from that vote since my name is on there.
Any other discussion? We will be removing, okay, so this we will, okay. 2324 temporary interventionist, well, I have a question. And I am going to need an executive session for this question. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry. I need a motion to go back into session.
So move.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, I will be making a motion to table item number 4. And item number 5 is on uncompensated leave. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. All right. Does anybody need anything pulled out, personnel log, school bus driver list, or uncompensated leave? So we'll be voting on items 1, 2, and 5. I'm pulling the band chaperones and tabling item number 4. Nobody needs anything else pulled out? Okay, I make a motion to approve item number 1, item number 2, and item number 5. I need a second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on those items?
Did you include 3, or should I miss?
I'm pulling item 3.
You're pulling item 3.
I'm pulling it for a separate vote, yes.
Oh, okay.
So items 1, 2, and 5. I have a motion, a second, no further discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item number 3, band chaperones. I make a motion to approve item number 3. I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'm abstaining.
I'd like to make a motion to table item number 4, temporary interventionist. I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. I'm sorry, is there any further discussion that can be discussed in public about this? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, the next section is education.
So item number 1 is the 23-24 high school student handbook. Any discussion?
I have a question that applies to all of we got 3 handbooks, high school, middle school, and elementary. There's a student dress code, right?
Yes.
Do we have a faculty dress code?
No.
And there's no school board dress code?
You mean for what we wear to meetings?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm asking.
Am I underdressed?
I looked through the books, and I saw one for students, but I didn't see any others.
Yeah, I don't, this, if there were a school board dress code, that's not a concern of the high school, the middle school, or the elementary schools.
And there's none for faculty or staff?
Is there a policy on that outside of?
I would imagine there's a policy that says about professional dress. I can't quote you what policy nor tell you the exact verbiage.
But it wouldn't be in there.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in there. This is for students.
Is there any other discussion on the high school student handbook? Okay, item number 2 is the 23-24 middle school student handbook. Discussion. Item number 3 is the 23-24 SES SPC student handbook. Is there any discussion?
Michelle, do these handbooks get put out in hard copy, or are they all on cyber?
They're all online.
They're all online. The student doesn't really get handed one of these.
Any discussion on item number 3? Item number 4, St. Vincent College Prevention Projects Annual Service Agreement. Discussion.
Is there ever an evaluation done on the success of that program?
On the success of the St. Vincent College Prevention Projects program? I can't speak to any of my time in other districts where there's ever been an evaluation done of something like that, no.
Okay, this is what I'm getting at, Jason. We keep voting for these programs, but I'm not seeing any analysis of the results or data to support them?
I mean, I think the validity of these programs is spoken of more in a qualitative manner than a quantitative one. Our principals and our counselors can speak to exactly what the counselors do whenever they come to the building and how they help our students in order to be able to learn in our buildings. So I don't, and I'll open the floor to any of the principals if there's anything they want to say about how the programs run in their school. Dr. Claire, sure.
That's actually a really great question. I don't have a good answer for that, but I think we should probably look at a way of collecting to see what's happening and see the effectiveness of it. I don't know what that is. I know that they're effective, but if you asked me to give you a number, I couldn't. So I think we probably should be asking some questions, maybe some data collecting.
And we have a whole bunch of these. You know, we have drug prevention, and I'm just wondering, are we getting any conclusive results that we can determine the effectiveness? You know,
I don't think there's a quantitative number that I could say that we have, but again, I would say we probably do see results, but I think that's more in terms of someone saying, hey, this kid responded to. So I think that's a good point, that we don't have a system in place to collect more like number-related data.
I certainly don't want anybody's names, but I mean, you know, how many visits they're making, you know, how many referrals, you know.
No, I think that's a fair point.
Stuff like that, you know.
I can't answer.
What their purpose is, you know, that what.
I would suspect that St. Vincent has that data. They probably do their own data collection for each school that they go to. So I'm sure that if we ask them, how many kids did you see? I'm sure that they have to keep track of that data.
Do the other agencies, Christy, do they do it?
I would suspect that that's probably part of their reporting and how they are funded.
I think they should share that with us, don't you?
I agree.
Any other discussion on item number 4? Okay, item number 5, student service agreements. This is for Southwestern Pennsylvania Human Services and Westmoreland Case Management and Supports. Any discussion?
I'll add that the SAP liaison position for this year will be fully funded by the county at no cost to the district, and it is a designated person for our district instead of a shared person across multiple districts. So there will be a change in service delivery.
We don't pay for these two, though, do we?
This year we will not. In the past we have.
Okay, but we pay for St. Vincent's.
Yes,
St. Vincent is programs that they bring in, correct?
correct.
That's not like pulling out one student. That's bringing in a whole type of prevention program, whether that be alcohol, smoking, correct? Those are the types of programs. So we're getting a program for the whole student body for these programs. Does anybody need anything pulled out under education? Items 1 through 5. The handbooks, St. Vincent, or the student services agreements. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 1 through 5. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, next section is finance.
Item number 1 is the monthly board treasurer's report. Is there any discussion?
If I may bring something to your attention, I wanted you to look at the CDs. We actually, with the 4-month, the 5-month, and the 6-month laddering of CDs, we made an interest $84,789.97. Our loan payment for the new money for the funds in which to do all the renovation projects that we have going on throughout the district last year, that payment was $50,361.95. Of that, we netted $34,428.02. I hadn't mentioned it before. The roof project at the high school, due to all the rain, they will finish part of it right as school begins. However, they will have to come back for no additional fees to us to complete the roof project at the end of this school year. So once I find out what the billing for Strongland is going to be for this portion of the roof that they finished, I will be asking you once again to let me invest that money in CDs and earn the district some money, which helps pay towards some of the debts.
Ma'am, I have a question. Are we completely finished with last year yet?
We are not.
Okay. And isn't there this big document that goes into the state? Remember the one that wasn't getting done? But I think you have to wait and do it till you have all your bills paid or something like that.
Yes, we haven't paid all of our bills. I'm not sure which document you're referring to, but we haven't paid all of our bills yet because obviously I had slowed paying the vendors due to the uncertainty of the state budget. I'm going to be meeting with Joanne tomorrow. We're going to be working on getting accounts payable and hopefully get it closed by the end of August, which typically in this district, accounts payable hadn't been closed until the beginning of October. That to me is unacceptable. I've already sent emails out to all of the building principals and secretaries asking them for any of their invoices that they have to get them processed sooner rather than later. And obviously, I've got to still book some receivables as well. So in answer to your question, do I have a final number yet? No.
See, Pam, it runs in my mind, it was always like October, and I just wondered.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get things buttoned up and done sooner this year than we
Do
have.
you ever have to carry anything over
As far as
from one budget to the next?
Oh, absolutely. You have to, if you have purchase orders out there that, aren't paid by the time that accounts payable
Yeah.
closes, then yes, you have to expend that money in the current year. And we did have one of those items this year because RAMP had not finished billing for the roof at SPC. So that typically should have been billed in the prior year's expenditures. Unfortunately, with their timelines of when they finished it and when they billed us, accounts payable and the books had already been closed, so that expenditure had to go on last year's books.
Is there any further discussion on item number 1, monthly board treasurer's report? Item number 2, general fund board summary report. Is there any discussion? Item number 3, accounting and food service check summary listing. Discussion? I'd like to make a motion to approve items 1 through 3. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, next section is buildings and grounds.
Item number 1 is the sewage plant service agreement. Just so everybody's aware, this is a vote to approve administration taking the steps necessary to terminate the wastewater treatment plant operator service agreement with Chase Price Environmental LLC at least 90 days before November 20th, 2023 agreement end date. Is there any discussion? I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 1. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Next section is athletics activities.
We have no items for this month.
Okay. Next section is closing exercises.
Citizens' comments, and we do have one already. Mr. Santemeyer. He has a question basically for you, Mr. Lewis.
Okay. Hello, my name is Bud Santemeyer. I live at 608 South Broadway Street in the borough of Scottdale. My question is about, I noticed on the request for public comment that it's restricted to residents of Southmoreland School District. And I'm wondering if that, what's the reasoning behind that?
Sure. Well, let me just say first, typically, the board structures these as an opportunity for members of the public to make comment. I mean, I'll provide some clarification here as their legal counsel. But so that arises from the Sunshine Act, which governs all of Pennsylvania's public entities and essentially states that in order to be entitled to make public comment at the public meeting of a particular entity, you should be a resident or a taxpayer. There are other circumstances. Sometimes some districts will permit employees. There's actually a board policy, 903, that governs public participation in board meetings. But the requirement that you be a resident or a taxpayer, that comes directly from the Sunshine Act.
Follow-up question then, does Southmoreland allow public comment by employees or by groups with a spokesperson that resides outside of the district?
So let me just say, again, with regard to the question that you raised, district employees are permitted to speak pursuant to policy 903, but community organizations within the district are permitted, but not outside groups. Now, there's also a catch-all for public officials or other individuals invited by the board or consented to by the superintendent who have authority coterminous with at least part of the district. That would be normally legislators.
No, I think what Mr. Sensenmeyer is saying is that if you have a group, that is functions in the Southmoreland school district, okay, like a club or something like that, and one of their members doesn't live in the community, can he speak for that group? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, essentially.
Okay.
Well,
Because you said he
typically-
doesn't live in the school district, but he's speaking for the group.
So the authority is granted to a community organization within the district. So if, for example, your football boosters has a president, and again, I don't know, I'm just giving you hypotheticals here, who lives outside the district, the community organization still operates presumably within the district. So, I mean, realize that the broader you read that, there are some circumstances where a person might want to make comment to the board and you might feel like it's not appropriate, so.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I ask an unrelated question?
We generally don't answer questions, but
Okay.
you can ask. That was a question specifically on policy, so I wanted to be sure you understood the,
Okay, thank you
comment.
very much.
Thank you.
I understand.
Thank you.
Jan Kiefer, address unknown. I've had legal counsel tell me that you don't have to be a resident to come to this comment period. On the same subject then, I've been watching you decimate the democracy here with your policy on speaking during COVID, which I corrected like 6 different times. 4 of them you picked up. We still left some hanging. And so we went from having a discussion meeting to explain the issue so we could come up and comment on it. We've had that discussion probably for 50 years or more, and it disappeared overnight without me ever having a period to comment on it. I think you should move to China. So we went from 2 meetings where we had 5 minutes, 2 minutes where we had 3 minutes. Now we're down to 1 meeting, we had 3 minutes, and we don't know really what we're talking about just because something's on an agenda. It hasn't been fleshed out, discussed. We don't know where it's going. It stinks. It's if I'm the only person in town, the administration, the staff, the teachers, the board members don't care. I don't care if I'm the only one in town who stands up for freedom and democracy. I know that clock's ticking. we could just go down from 9 to 7 to 5 board members. That would speed up things, save a lot of money. And boy, that never crossed your mind, I'm sure. So let me just jump subjects. Mine can't waste on procedural stuff. Someone else could pick that up. So you say your history scores are good. I'd just like to say, you know, history is written by the winners. The lead up to World War I, World War II that you teach your kids in Ukraine, you know, it's probably wrong. You teach your kids about America and democracy, and you don't tell them about the CIA and the FBI snooping on us like Edward Snowden did. More indoctrination. It's really telling students who come out here and for you guys to say that America is a democracy it's just really technically incorrect. If you aren't aware of that debate, then you shouldn't be in a public's office if you don't feel like you could do it. But just to wrap it up then, you know, this is not education. Education is public education, government education is the enemy of the state, the enemy of freedom, the enemy of intellectualism, and it's just pure indoctrination. And if you want to just disappear meetings, disappear comment periods, there's a good place for people like you in China. You could be in mid-level stuff, you'd get paid a little more, and you could just forget about people like myself who care and want to come up here. And that's what we've done. Look, no one comes up anymore. No one wants to participate in your meetings. No one has in your government. Education is the most formative thing that we have in America. It's more powerful than TV, than the internet and all that. And people in town don't have a clue what happens to a kid when they come in here and they come out 12 years later.
Is there any other comments?
Yeah.
Yes, I have one more.
Michelle, I have a question.
We're in public comment, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
For the superintendent.
I would like to pick up where I left off when I was stopped and I last tried to speak. It's made crystal clear that allowing a taxpayer citizen a whole 1 minute more will apparently bring the Southmoreland School District crashing down. Imagine that, 1 more minute. What are we going to do, get down to 30 seconds? But I'm concerned about public transparency and how these things are being handled. There are two kinds of lies. Lies of commission, where you negate the truth and you just flat outright lie. But there's another kind of lie, lies of omission, where you hide the truth by not being transparent. You withhold the real truth and hide the facts as they truly exist. An example, and this purely hypothetical, no names, no positions. An employee is forced out of a job by abuse and persecution by a ruling body. The real truth, the employee is on a hit list, systematically
Excuse me,
destroyed
we're going to stop right
until
there.
forced to take a legal leave of absence. There's no names, no positions. This is a hypothetical thing. I think this is where we need to look at transparency. By now, all of you have received your new property tax bill. The last I heard or knew is that in our Southmoreland School District, only 1 out of every 4 families has a child in public school. Once again, what are we getting for our tax dollar? When you get that tax increase, you're going to pay it forever. Does anybody care about the long-range success of this school district? Or do the voters really want the boards to keep doing the same thing over and over? And I reminded you that it only takes 5 people, not 9, on a school board to tax you into homelessness. The future is up to you. In the end, this all boils down to groupthink. This is defined when all members of a group who are not capable of independent thought agree and vote all the same way. If you buck the groupthink, you will be the censored enemy for not being a submissive. Need more evidence? And this has been a grave concern of mine. Since January of 2023, in our school district meetings, only 1 board member is allowed to make a motion. That person who makes that motion also controls the agenda. You call this democracy? I'm telling you the truth. I'm giving you the facts. It's up to the voters and the community now.
I do make every motion. That's something we discussed as a board at a workshop that you did not attend. I don't make a motion and then vote. I make a motion and I ask for a second. If there's anybody, if nobody else up here wishes to second my motion, then there's not a second. I call for discussion. I called for discussion tonight 2 times on every item you could have discussed. There was plenty of discussion time. And yes, I do make the motions, but I do need a second. And as
Democracy
far
at
as
its finest.
groupthink goes, I think it is possible for 8
Democracy at its
individuals.
finest.
I think it is possible for 8
Yeah.
individuals.
There is nothing at all wrong from a parliamentary perspective with the board president making motions that have been put on the agenda. If they aren't voted up, or if they die for lack of a second, then they don't move any further.
Michelle, I have a question for the superintendent. Let's go back on the school business. At the high school, Jason, you made a comment that, and it happened the day I was there, a truck backed up into one of the light poles. Whatever happened out of that? I never heard anything. I mean, I know it happened. I saw them do it. Okay. Excuse me?
We're at the end of the meeting.
I want to know if
Speaker.
it's costing us money, Jack.
No, it's their insurance is covering that.
insurance.
Yeah, we had a meeting last week with the construction company to go over
Okay.
the progress of the project, and that was one of the items.
Well, I wanted to know, make sure that the school district is not liable for it.
No, nope.
Okay, thank you.
Need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I need a second.
Wait a minute, you're not allowed to make a motion.
I just made the motion.
You weren't allowed. You're not allowed
I
to make a
just made it
motion on our
anyway.
board, Tony. What's the matter with you? Don't you follow the rules?
I just made it anyway.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?